Welcome to Friday Night Fights. It's nice you guys to get here a day early. Is there something going on tomorrow? No. Nothing going on tomorrow? All right.
So Don, why capital of the world bring the PFL back this year? Just talk a little bit about having the fights in Las Vegas for the 2024 season.
Well, the exciting thing for me is marking the PFL growth every year. So it's only our second fight of the PFL season 6. And so for us every year we say, what's our growth of our audience for fans? What's our growth of our roster for fighters? And so for me, it's the only time to kind of take stock, because fight night is the only night that I don't really work. Work all the other days of the year. And this year, 33% of our roster is top 25 ranked. Last year was only 22%. Big deal with the acquisition of Bellator. And this year we're trending toward 50% audience of UFC, another year of high growth. Last year it was only 40%, the year before only 30%. So for us, as you guys know and you've heard from me before, fan-focused, fighter first. So that's all I really think about when I come to the events. Are we serving the fans? Are we building the fighters? And so far this year, I'm feeling great about both.
After an event and a half right about now, just how has the experience been integrating that Bellator roster in the fights and how they played out?
I just asked Patchy Mix the same thing. He was here tonight, and the day after we closed the deal, Patchy and Johnny Elba and a bunch of the Bellator fighters came to the PFL Championship. And they were asking a bunch of questions because nobody knew anything. And I said, so how do you guys feel now, and how do all the Bellator fighters feel now? He said, could not feel better. Those who are in the season love it. They love the control. They love the certainty. They love the opportunity. And those love the reimagined Bellator Champion Series. Fights have more meaning. The fights are bigger. The fights are staged better. So I believe it's going really well, but I always like to figure out what the fighters are thinking. And I think so far it's really, really delivered. And obviously the distribution in the United States on Max, HBO Max, is better distribution. And around the world, we've got better distribution for that Bellator Champion Series. So I think you'll see a lot of growth this year.
And then you obviously focused on that, but piggybacking on a big UFC pay-per-view week, do you feel like that might be something you would also still try again in the future, or was this just, what timing worked out?
It was just a coincidence. ESPN scheduling. Really just a coincidence.
Obviously, the PFL Paris was a big success. Could you tell us more about maybe the next fight, about Cedric Doumbé in Paris?
It was, first of all, it was crazy. Any of you who were there, any of you who saw it, I like to give Cedric all the credit. He sold 16,200 tickets, and the viewership numbers we got back, it beat every single MMA event viewership in Europe. That's Cedric Doumbé. That's his effect. It's wild. He wants to come back and fight soon. He wants to fight on the Bellator card. So we're working to try to make that happen. So nothing's official yet, but that's what Cedric has asked for, and I think that's what we're trying to make happen. So wait for an announcement for Pete Murray, but that's what we're working toward.
You spoke to the integration of Bellator fighters into these seasons. How much more competitive, how much tougher of a challenge do you think it is for these fighters in these tournaments with the fresh blood coming over from Bellator?
It's incredible. I made a post on X Twitter a couple days ago. Last year, the average ranking was 58. If you look at Fight Matrix and you add up all the fighter rankings in the 2023 season, was 58. This year it's 40. So you got to win 4 times, 8 months. It's just tough against anybody. But to do it against an average ranking of 40, you don't have an easy out, right? You're facing everybody pretty tough. So I think whoever emerges and holds up $1 million check and is a champion this year, they could say they just went through the toughest test of MMA in the world, period.
And I noticed Shane Burgos elected to not be a part of this year's lightweight tournament. Can we expect to see him back in the cage this year?
I hope so. Shane said he's under contract. He loves the PFL. He said the season took a lot out of him. He said it took a lot out of him emotionally, and he needs a year off, and then he's going to come back strong. So, look, you just saw what Shoeface did. You just saw his energy. You just saw his spirit. All of you who've known him for a couple years saw a guy here with positive determination to win. He needed a year off. So it is, make no mistake of how hard this season is, how thrilling it is. But I think certain people, need a break and need a change. But I love Shane. We all love him. I think he's going to be back next year.
Don, just get you right. One of your biggest stars, Francis Ngannou, was in action last month. It didn't go his way in the boxing ring. Does that mean he will likely be making his PFL debut sooner than expected?
We talked to Francis. He had said before the fight, as you know, when we were in Saudi Arabia, that he planned to come in MMA this year in 2024. It would just depend on the outcome of that fight. He said, if I lose sooner, if I win later. So it's going to be sooner. He says he's recharging. He went home, Cameroon. We think it'll be fall. It could be as early as September. It could be as late as October. But I think it'll be one of those two. And he'll be ready. And I think fans will be, it'll be almost 2 years, right? A little over 2 years since we've all seen him in MMA. And I think we'll be excited to see him against La Problema.
We talked about, obviously, you're dealing with a lot of Bellator fighters coming over and dealing with everything. We talked about going to different markets. You mentioned Paris. Canadian, we got Michael Dufort on the card tonight. One of the things under Bellator's tenure under Scott Coker, they never went to Canada. It's a huge market. Is that something you think in the future, maybe PFL expanding to Canada? It's the neighbors to the north, big fight fans over there.
Look, absolutely. As we know, Bellator is an international product. 6 of the 8 international. So we are certainly going to do that next year. It's a great comment by you. We want to hit fight fans everywhere that have been underserved, and that's a big underserved market, no question.
Hey Don, is there an update about Chris Cyborg? Is she returning?
Anytime I make a Chris Cyborg comment, before I finish, she goes on social media and makes a comment. So I hope this is no exception. My good friend, Chris Cyborg, will, as I've said before, be fighting Larissa Panchenko, and it will be the biggest and best women's fight of the year. And that will happen when Francis fights on pay-per-view. As I've said before, Larissa has earned that elevation. Cyborg is the greatest ever fight, I believe, in MMA. She's a pay-per-view fighter, and she's earned that. And so I think when Francis is ready to go, I think that is a deserving co-main event. It's that big, and I think we'd like to see it then.
Do you have a time frame?
September, October.
Have you met with her? Because she's here for Holly Holm. I know. She's in Vegas this weekend.
I'm not this weekend.
Okay.
Too busy. But no, I've met with Chris before.
Okay.
Now, we'll see if there's any comments before the press conference ends.
Yeah.
But I hope Chris is happy. I hope she knows that the PFL loves and values her. Yes.
Do you plan on implementing any more women fighters into like other cards, Clarissa Shields, Amanda Serrano?
Great question. Amanda will fight this year. And I don't want to take any thunder away from her announcement, but she is going to make her PFL MMA debut this year. She will. It's going to be a big deal.
One last question for me. What about signing Saladin Parnasse? There is a lot of talks in France about him signing maybe in PFL.
Ray Sefo and Mike Kogan have been doing a great job. And I think you'll see within 2 weeks some pretty exciting signings. And my team that does all the great work, I want to let them tell you all about that.
Is Baki under contract, the gentleman who defeated Cedric Doumbé?
No, that was a one-fight contract with Baki.
And when you look at the tournament this year, are you happy with the field? Do you feel like you have the best crop of talent that you possibly could in each division?
You never have the best. If you're building a company, you're never done. If you're building a division, you're never done, right? Just like you guys, you're never, ever at the perfect moment. 5 of the 6 weight classes this year are better than last year, I think demonstrably. I think most people would agree with that. But I want them to be better next year, and I want them to be better the year after that, and better the year after that. So I think constantly, as we've said, somewhere between 25 and 50% of the fighters won't be back each year, and they will be released either because they didn't prove themselves, or didn't respond at that highest level. We want to give everybody opportunity. This league is about opportunity. So constant improvement. Look, we're a 6-year-old company. We want to be the co-leader in MMA. We're not going to get there if we just sit around. We've got to prove to fans and fighters every day and get better.
And 2 more quick ones for you. So 15 months ago, Jake Paul signed PFL to compete in MMA. Seems like he's got a lot of big boxing matchups, the Mike Tyson matchups on the horizon, but we haven't really seen much of him training in MMA. Do you think that he is still going to fight for the PFL at some point?
I was in Puerto Rico 2 weeks ago. I saw the PFL Smart Cage. The good news is if people didn't think Jake was serious about combat, he's proven him to be serious, right? He's gotten better, he's got more serious. But what's come with that is he's doubled down on boxing in the near term. There's no question about that, right? There was a time at which he might have done some box, call it 50-50. And right now it looks like he's doing maybe 90-10 boxing and MMA. So his development in MMA has not come along as quickly as we thought. Will he fight for PFL 100%? Will he move to MMA 100%? Is that timing delayed? It is.
And finally, Anthony Romero came and made weight for this event, unfortunately for him. And fortunately for Espinoza, who's now in the tournament, Espinoza got, I guess, upgraded to the tournament. So if somebody else falls out, is that going to be Romero's spot because he came here and made weight, that his job was supposed to be in a reserve fight?
Yes.
One follow-up for me. Can you answer for the Bellator fighters that you brought over, is there a guaranteed amount of fights that you offer in the events that you're doing?
No. Now remember, we honor all the Bellator contracts that we took over, but how the Bellator contracts work, very similar to the UFC contracts. You might have 6 fights over 3 years. You know, typical fight contract, whereas the PFL contracts are very specific, season by season, you know, year by year. So we honor all those contracts, but you might fight 1 time, and then you might 3 times. You know, it varies over that period of time.
So you don't offer the fight, but it just
yeah, so for you might see a fighter 1 time this year and 3 times next year. Exactly, in the Bellator Champion Series. Correct. Boy, you guys asking some probing questions. You know I'm direct and honest. It was my 16-year-old daughter's spring break, so it was not solely to speak with Jake. Yes. No, Jake himself was training at USA Colorado Boxing. That's how serious he is. Yes. Anything else on your guys' mind?
What was your overall impression so far tonight with the fan turnout here at the hotel?
Well, as you guys know, we're focused on global media. You know, this year we have 158 countries that it's covering us, 22 media partners. And I think it's been a great show. And every event for us is, are we putting on a fight product that we're proud of? And that all of you and all the fans would walk away and say, frickin' great night of fights. And I think 6 fights in, we've got that. And the 3 or 4 that are coming are going to be better yet.
One more, just a fun question. You think Tyrone Woodley would like to fight Jake Paul in his PFL?
Of course, of course. I don't think Woodley can even sit in his chair any longer, right? He could barely commentate. He's ready to get in that cage. Hey, you guys, thanks for coming in. See you later.